Guys, I just got done with a video call interview for the show, and I have to say that it was like the smoothest experience ever. Didn't have any issues or anything, and the video came out almost perfect. And do you know why? It's because I used Riverside. Riverside is your online recording studio where you can record a conversation with any guest online. You can easily record podcasts and videos in studio quality from anywhere, all from your browser or their mobile app. All you have to do is get your setup ready, send your guests a link for them to join, have them join from their phone or their computer, and just chat away. A lot of podcasts that you listen to are probably using Riverside, honestly. What sets Riverside apart is that a recording of your audio and your video is happening locally on your computer. So even if your connection isn't that good, it doesn't ruin the entire recording or anything. Once you've finished recording, you will get the individual tracks of each speaker and also a combined one. You'll receive all the raw files, including that Pepsi crystal clear, uncompressed audio and up to 4K video. There's also lots of really cool features where you can edit your video right in their site. So, you're a YouTuber, a podcaster, or streamer, or a content creator of any kind, and you want to have high quality conversations with your guests, please use my link in the description and sign up for Riverside. If you want to support me in the channel, please use my link since I end up getting a cut from the sales. I'm not joking. Please support me. Sign up for Riverside and start recording today. Live in front of an internet audience, it is the Clifford Today Show. What's up, everybody? Welcome, come one, come all to the great Clifford Today Show. Well, I mean, that might be stretching it a bit. I don't have a mic stand right now because I suppose I could have switched out for the other mic stand, but you know, who's got time for that? For those of you who missed it, I broke my mic stand during the GMA Dove Awards awards ceremony stream. If you guys missed out on that, I don't recommend going back to the stream that I did because it's just me. It's just the camera on me reacting to what I'm watching. And I know maybe some of you guys were a little disappointed, but the thing is that I didn't want to get kicked off of my stream because I knew that there was going to be copyrighted content, there was going to be copyrighted songs and such. And if the K-Love Fan Awards can get their own video muted because of these live performances, then I didn't want to risk it. So I knew that wouldn't be fun. But I have some good news for you guys, for those of you who missed the stream. I'm planning on making a sort of like highlight video of the stream, both with footage of me and of the award show. And I think that'll be fun. I'm working on it. I think you guys will enjoy it. I'm setting aside time from, working on my Days of Noah video to do this because I think this would be fun, especially since the stream itself is getting a lot of traction. A lot of people are searching for it and finding it, but they're not watching it all the way through because they find out that it's just some guy, just looking at his computer, which is unfortunate because it's one of my best performing videos in terms of people clicking on it and viewing. It's got over 1,000 views right now, so I'm doing my best to speed that up and capitalize on that. So we'll see. I guess the title and the thumbnail really work. So anyways, welcome everyone. Today we are joined by Wars and Rumors of Wars by The Chariot, a great album. Also very relatable album title, considering these times. But we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into politics. At least not this episode. So today we got a lot in store for you. Mostly just a really cool and awesome conversation with our friend, Benjamin Daniel. So I hope you guys will stick around for that. It's a really good one, really good conversation. And then, of course, we have my humble opinion at the end, where I give my thoughts on a lot of new Christian releases. So stick around for that at the end. Not sure if there's anything in terms of, so the GMA Dove Awards, I did the whole stream on that, and I'm working on the video for it. And I guess just quick thoughts on the GMA Dove Awards. I thought there were some things about it that were a little bit more enjoyable than the K-Love Fan Awards. There really wasn't a lot about the K-Love Fan Awards that I really found entertaining. I mean, come on. Both these awards, they're talking about the same music that, you and I, especially me on this show, complain about a lot. Just considering the state of CCM today, it's just... So there's just a lot of that. But I gotta say that the highs on this award show were a lot higher than the K-Love Fan Awards. There was a handful of good moments. Spoiler alert for the stream. I'd say the highest high on the awards was the moment when Grits came out and did a whole reunion performance. So I thought that was pretty neat, not expected. It was during this segment where they were kind of they took 5 minutes to recognize Christian hip hop, and so they had a couple of new guys. They had what's his name, Hersley. I don't remember his name. I was not familiar with him actually because I've been out of the loop when it comes to mainstream CCM this year. And they also had Social Club Misfits. And they performed 30 seconds of a song. And then just out of nowhere, Grits comes out and they start performing My Life Be Like, Ooh, Ah. People my age would probably be familiar with that song. So that was cool because Grits hasn't performed. Well, I don't know about performed, but they haven't released music since 2010. So, yeah, they've been on... I don't know if they ever officially called it quits. I have not been in the loop on that, but either way, it was a really cool moment and unexpected. And then, of course, Toby Mac, since he was there anyways, he came out and did his verse from the song, and so I don't know, I thought it was really cool. They're definitely old now, but it was awesome. They definitely still got it. Other highs, I gotta say, Zach Williams, because he performed Jesus Fault. And for those of you who, you guys, if you've watched this show long enough, you would know that I put Jesus Fault in my top 10 Christian hit songs of last year. So I like that song. I think that song's okay, and I liked the performance. I think his music stands out from a lot of contemporary Christian music in the mainstream because he's like actually country. So I thought that was fun. Another highlight, I would say, they had a... Oh, shoot. I don't remember their name because I was not familiar with them. I'm a bad CCM commentator. But they had this, a cappella group. Something, their name is like Six something. Awesome Six. Fantastic Six. I don't know. I mean, you guys can correct me in the chat or in the comments. But they came out and they were really cool. And then they had this Southern Gospel. I don't know if it's technically a quartet because can't remember if there was exactly 4 of them. But they came out and they kind of had like a sort of battle of the bands kind of thing. And it was just really fun and stood out because it's not your typical, mainstream Christian music. So that was fun. And also hearing the Southern Gospel brought me back to when I used to live in Southern Missouri. Because Southern Gospel was really big over there at churches. So it kind of brought me back. Even though it's not really my kind of music, I appreciated it for what it was. And I just thought it was really cool that they took time to do something like that. Because it seems that like with mainstream CCM, other genres that aren't like Christian pop or anything are kind of forgotten. And it was cool that they had a moment like that. But, unfortunately, even though there were those highs, I found the majority of the award ceremony to be extremely boring, mostly because they were playing a lot of music that I really didn't care. I mean, they had Kathy Nicole perform in Jesus Name, and that was in my top 10 worst Christian hit songs of last year. I really do not like that song for many different reasons. So not a fan. Also, I think their attempts at humor with like their little skits that they had and such were kind of cringy. Not as cringy as Kane at the Kayla Fan Awards, so that's good. Yeah, and Torrin Wells hosted the show, and if y'all want to know my thoughts about Torrin Wells, go find my highlight video about Torrin Wells and that whole thing, that whole like YouTube drama. With my friend Tracy. And also, speaking of Torrin Wells, he performed one of his songs, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was just one, and I complained about it in the stream where it was like, dude, it's too much like Jesus is my boyfriend kind of stuff, with like specifically with the line, God's so crazy about you, and it's just like, I hate phrases like that. And just the whole song in general is that it's got that like ooey gooey feeling where it's like, oh, God loves you for who you are, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, there's a lot of theological things to tackle here. As my friend Mark Likes Movies on Twitter was saying, in my Twitter thread, I'm sorry, X thread, I shouldn't dead name. So yeah, just like moments like that, it was just like, yep, same old CCM, mainstream CCM. But of course, what else would you expect when the award show is hosted by, what was it? I had the link to it. TBN, what's the name of the network? The something network? Trinity Broadcasting Network, who is notorious for platforming everyone from, questionable Christian leaders to outright false teachers. They tend to platform people, a lot of people like Stephen Furtick, Joyce Myers, T.D. Jakes, everywhere from like questionable Christian leaders to downright false doctrine. So they have no problem with that kind of stuff, and it doesn't seem like that they really have any discernment. So, not really surprised. I think the Devil Wards should. I don't know if the Devil Wards are like conjoined with TBN or anything, but I think they need to find somewhere else, some other way to be hosted, because TBN is questionable to say the least. So, but it is what it is, I guess. So yeah, I'm gonna be working on a little highlight video for that for you guys to enjoy. I think you'll enjoy watching me suffer through it, but also be somewhat entertained by it in certain moments. So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully that'll be done sooner rather than later. Let me see if there's any housekeeping. Well, probably, let's see. I'm trying to do the math in my head, like when we should start the actual interview. You know what? I think that's about. Just really quickly, I did make a post last week about whether you guys have been enjoying the interviews on this show, and 80% of you guys said yes, please do more, and 0% said I like them but prefer a balance with your normal format, and 20% said not my thing. And so thanks for the feedback, guys. Maybe one or two of you just really aren't into the whole interview thing, and I totally get it. But I'm glad most of you guys are enjoying the interviews. I'm not saying that like this channel is going to be overrun by interviews, but I like doing them. So, and I don't really have any booked right now. So after this, things should go kind of back to normal, because there were some things that I wanted to talk about specifically on the show, and that I needed more time for. But be on the lookout for more interviews in the future, because I enjoy doing it and I enjoy talking to Christian creatives. So yeah, speaking of which, let's get to it. Let's get to the interview. Y'all know him. He was my first interview that I ever had on the channel. And he was also one of the people that I interviewed for my What is Audio Feed video, and that's where I met him, basically. And we've become good friends, long distance friends, as good of a friends as you can be when one of you lives in Illinois and the other in California, and you're only able to see each other basically whenever you go to Audio Feed. But Benjamin Daniel, I love the guy. He's such a genuine and honest person, and very genuine about his faith, but also about the things that he struggles with. And I think he's great. And I love his music. I'm just saying that I'm also a big fan, and I've talked about whenever he releases music, I usually talk about it on the show. Especially his album Home Enough for Now, and that's what we'll be talking about. Yeah, and I gotta say, like, even after this interview, when we were like done with the interview, we still talked for like 2 more hours after it, just like really getting into stuff. And so I just got to say, I really appreciate him, and I hope that you guys, I think this conversation is going to be really edifying for a lot of people. So I encourage you guys to definitely stick around and take a listen and take a watch. Yeah, and then we'll be back for a little ad break, a little spotlight break. So here he is, folks, the man, the myth, the legend, Benjamin Daniel. been out for a few months now. Uh, what's that been like having that out there now? And like, has there been like any strong reactions from everyone from it?
Yeah, it's been a little bit quieter overall.
Mm,
Um, and I'm trying to work on, just promotion, even going into the fall, something I'm trying to kind of prioritize. Um,
yeah.
it's also it's as long as Shelter Heart, but it's also a little bit more minimal. So it's
Mm-hmm.
about an hour long, and it's heavy. So it's one of those that when I put out, I wasn't expecting immediate response so much. I knew it would probably take some time if people gave it the time at all. Um,
Right.
and so, but the reactions from people who have spent time with it have been very positive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my family, my sister just talked to me on the phone saying she just listened to it. Um, she'd
Mm.
listened to it before, but she really dug into it for the first time because it's my family's story as well as
Sure.
mine,
Yeah.
um, and just how it blessed her. The biggest blessing. Well, I got a good review from Indie Vision Music. That was really encouraging.
Oh yeah.
Um, but the biggest blessing was yeah, actually my sister's best friend, Joy, texted me right after I put it out, and
Mm-hmm.
she was close with my mom, which the record is kind of about her passing, and
Yeah.
she just said there's so much I haven't been able to kind of process in relation to like, your mom is my sister's best friend, and she
Mm-hmm.
was like it felt like it shared so much of what I was feeling. So I'm like, well, that
Right.
gives perspective where you're like, okay, if the people who are closest to the event feel like this is telling their story, that's at least, if nobody else relates or it's a bit too much for people outside of that, then that's fine. Then it's done what it needs to do. So
Sure. Yeah. Well, I personally, I mean, I haven't even really gone through anything like that you've gone through, that everything that inspired this record. But even for me, I find it so it resonates a whole lot, and it is very impactful for me even. And I can totally see this. I can imagine people really connecting with this album, uh, whether they've gone through uh, exactly the same scenario that you went through or not. I really I checked out your Bandcamp, and there's this one review that's on there that I had to reference. You probably know who the person is. I didn't remember their name, but I just liked what they said. It said, if Shelter Heart is the Christian life summarized in a single album, Home Enough for Now is about grief in the life of the Christian. Though Daniel discusses places and circumstances many may not directly relate to, the pain, struggle, and doubt are all universal elements of this sinful life. Perhaps no other album has discussed them with such raw clarity and honesty, and maybe none ever will. The hurt is real and the Savior is realer. Daniel laments the former to the latter. And I got to say, I agree with that a
man,
whole lot. Like, pretty much
yeah,
took the words right out of my mouth. Um, so have you had anyone who's like, reached out to you and said like, "Hey, I've gone through this in my life, and this album has been able to really speak to me"? I don't know if that's like a weird question to ask or not,
that's not a
but
weird question. No, um, no, I did have. Um, I remember I have one friend from who's around this area in LA who she sent a message, particularly relating to I think 1999 tornado, talking about how that reminded her of taking care of her grandpa,
mm,
and just the details and stuff like that. Um, I feel like there's probably more that I'm not totally remembering. There's not a ton,
mm-hmm,
like I said. It's been kind of a slow slow process in terms of reaction, and I don't even know
Sure.
totally what I'm looking for. I mean, I wanted to
Right.
serve people. I really wanted to serve people,
Right.
but that's not something you can't make that happen. You can't make people
Right.
resonate with your stuff. But
Right. Yeah.
there's been a few people who have kind of shared similarities. I think that song in particular, I've gotten multiple comments about that was a particular blessing, which is funny because that was the one I was most worried about, because it's like kind of just gives the blunt details without much. Um, Not that there's no hope, but it just doesn't really resolve. It's kind of doesn't let itself resolve, and so it was funny to me that was one that people seem to really resonate with,
Yeah.
especially.
I mean, I think it's important for people um to find those voices that um I guess tell them that it's okay to, like, when you're going through these things in your life, it's okay to be upset, to put it,
Yeah,
lightly. Uh Terrible things happen in our lives, and you're not a bad Christian if you are in despair or if you're depressed. Um, but I think that you do a great job in this album, like what that person um, said in his review, that the hurt is real, but the Savior is more real. And I think you did a great job at pointing to God while also making portraying what you went through very real, and very dark. Um, but I think people need that. A lot of people need that. You know, so I think that's incredibly important. So, um, I guess what I know that you've shared a lot of your story about, behind this album, like on social media and such. But I guess I'm just wanting to hear from you. So this album came from your experience. Your mother passed away uh, January 2022, right?
hmm
Yeah, and it was was it to cancer? Or,
um, it was to a lot of things.
okay.
She'd been sick with a lot for a while. I actually don't know the actual cause of her death,
Oh,
because there's
okay.
just so many different components. Yeah, so just a lot of health issues.
Sure. Yeah. So that's basically where this album came from. Um, Talk about what drew you to write these songs and and work towards making this album, and what did that look like exactly?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I um, it's such a funny thing to think about, because songwriting has become such an automatic thing for me. I feel like in a lot of ways, and I thought I wouldn't really have anything to write about, at least immediately after my
Hmm.
mom. Um, but I knew that just for myself, I was probably going to process through through song and through music, and
Hmm.
um, being really familiar with a lot of albums kind of before mine that dealt with grief, like Sufjan's Carrie and Lowell album, and Julian Baker's Sprained Ankle. Those are records that are just very, very raw, dealing with grief. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I feel like this is probably going to be in that vein. I kind of immediately knew, weirdly enough, like
Yeah.
I'm going to be writing some heavy stuff.
Hmm.
And I think, but for me, it's not. I was just thinking about this. Um, there was some sense of catharsis. I can't actually say that writing it and putting it out has brought any catharsis.
Hmm.
I actually, I think this happens with really big events where it's almost harder, like a year or two later, because sort of able to start wrapping your head around it. Um, but what I was thinking is like, I mean, I really want people still. You know, that's always a desire when I'm writing something.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any real drive if it's not serving others, or I don't think it's going to serve others. And my template for that is, how are these songs serving me as I'm writing them? Um, and so that was a big thing for me, was processing through. It was, I think, just this desire to not create meaning, because the Lord has already put the meaning there, and it's not my job to uncover every facet of what He's doing or to control my circumstances. So that wasn't it, but I think it was just this wanting to think through stuff. I don't even know if I had intentions. I mean, I don't know. I was just like, I'm just writing. I'm just going to write because this is what I do. But as I started writing, really thinking, you know, there's a lot of songs I wrote that didn't end up on the record because I'm like, I don't know, this would be helpful right now. Maybe they're a little bit more confrontational. And I'm thinking, that's not really what I want to put out there at the moment. You know, just thinking through. For me, it was really a matter of, okay, like, I'm going through this, but let me see how I can hopefully turn around and serve other people through it, even if it's just a few people. And yeah, so it was pretty quick. Like, I got COVID at my mom's funeral, which was fun. So I was down for a couple weeks, and like, the first lines of Manna came in that first week. You know, it was just kind of, and a ton didn't come immediately, but that was kind of like the beginning of the process. And yeah, I had a few songs written before that point that just ended up kind of fitting the vibe, including the title track. It was actually the first I wrote, and that was a couple months before my mom passed. I didn't even know she was going to pass, but it ended up being, to me, it just kind of ended up being sort of a thesis statement that I wanted to kind of tack onto the end of the record and sort of make the mantra of it, I guess. But yeah, it was, yeah, I think I've just gotten into this, you know, I just put out Shelter Heart a few months before, 2 months before, which thankfully my mom was able to hear, and gave me like my favorite praise for that record that I've heard from anybody. And so that was just such a gift. And but yeah, so I was already kind of, songwriting was moving forward. It was something that was becoming kind of more public, and I'm like, well, let me try and write. Let me give myself the room and the permission, I guess, to write in a way that is hard and is kind of unfiltered. And then people aren't going to ask me why the songs sound that way, because they know what's happened in my life. And so, and in my mind, thinking kind of what you said, like, I think we need more of that rawness and that honesty, because people need to know that Jesus is there too. I need to know that Jesus is there. So I think that the long answer, kind of condensed, is I think I just needed to know that Jesus is there. So.
No, yeah, that's that's an important message. You know, I think it's very, I mean, it's in our own Bible. You know, I think a lot of people forget about, like, just like the Psalms and such, and you know, many other different examples, but the Psalms especially, where it's like, man, it's kind of surprising that David even made it as far as he did. You know, he's going through so much, and he's really honest about that. And it's refreshing to, I mean, I don't know if it's refreshing for you, but it's refreshing to hear an artist who is honest about those kinds of things, because think a lot of Christians think it's wrong to think those things and to be in despair, but not that we should like wallow in despair, but like it's good to know that it's healthy, and ultimately our hope is in God.
All right. Okay. Yep. I'm back. All right. Hope you guys are enjoying the conversation so far. Sorry to interrupt it, but we do have to take a little bit of a break, spotlight break / ad break. So don't go away. We'll be right back. And we'll just try not to kill this momentum entirely. So, but yeah, enjoy this spotlight. We'll be right back. Hey guys, thanks for watching or listening to the I'm Clifford Today show. Right now, we're going to take a few minutes to listen to this week's spotlight artist, Rusty Vining, and his latest single entitled Change Me. You can find his music on whatever music platform you prefer, including Bandcamp, where you can purchase any of his music and support the artist directly.
Another blind eye just waiting to be open. Another long night gives way to morning. Another hard heart this old world has stolen. Another lost son is ready to come home again. To come home again. Another sick man waiting to be whole again. The boy watching sheep is soon to be anointed. Another lost soul in the endless void of feelings. The dawning of hope, the morning sun's revealing. If anyone can change me, it's you. Because it doesn't feel that way, doesn't mean that it's not true. I don't claim to understand most of what you do. But if anyone can change me, it's you. If anyone can change me, it's you. Because it doesn't feel that way, doesn't mean that it's not true. I don't claim to understand most of what you do. But
If you're a Christian artist and would like to hear your music in the Spotlight segment, send an email to the address in the description of the episode. And now, back to the show. Welcome back, everyone. Hey, Agent Serenity. We got Agent Serenity in the chats. Agent Serenity says, very good spotlight. Agreed. Thank you to Rusty Vining for wanting to be, for promoting this show, being a sort of sponsor, I guess. Again, I'm not charging for it, but speaking of Rusty Vining, he also suggested that I also promote, let's, let me get a picture for it, the flyer for it. This festival that he is also going to be a part of. It's the Novelty Collective Music Arts Festival. Here, let's pull it up. I should have had this ready before, but I did not think of it. Let's pull it up here. Sorry, guys. We'll get back to the interview in a second. Here we go. Oop. Just pull that over here. Yep, the Novelty Collective Music Arts Festival. If you guys are in the Pittsburgh area, it's happening November 3rd and November 4th. Here's all the information right here. Rusty Vining is going to be performing it. A bunch of other artists, including Kevin Schlureth, who is also a friend of the channel. I've talked about his music before, and he's also one of the head runners of Audio Feed Festival. So there's a lot of like Audio Feed crossover right here. So if you guys are in the Pittsburgh area and want to something to do over that weekend, and you want to experience some good music and support some good music, go check it out for sure. But thanks again to Rusty Vining for making great music. It's awesome song. So go check out his stuff. The Novelty Collective is such a great name, says Agent Serenity. Yeah, it is. I like it. It's very, very official. All right. And speaking of Spotlight, again, if you are a Christian artist or an artist who happens to be a Christian and you've got music, please reach out to me. There's an email in the description, and you can spotlight in the next episode, possibly. Reach out to me. All right, let's get back to it, to this amazing conversation with Benjamin Daniel. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. I'm curious, and I hope this is I'm still trying to find my confidence in my interviewing skills, but I'm
man. You're doing great.
Thanks, man. In all of this, with the sickness and eventual passing of your mother and making this album, what would you say has been the hardest lesson for you to learn from all of this?
Yeah, I think right now it's almost, because I'm still surprising. Maybe it's not surprising, but it's surprising to me how much I'm still kind of in it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I think waiting on the Lord, that's coming into my mind because my pastor preached on Psalm 40 this morning, and he talked about how waiting on the Lord, when David talks about waiting on the Lord, he's like, it's an active thing. It's not a passive thing, because in the age of smartphones, we think of waiting as, well, I wait for my buddy to pick me up from my house. Like, I'm going to kill the 30 minutes I have waiting on my phone, you know. But there was a time when we used to not have smartphones and we just waited and just sat there.
Right.
And I think,
Crazy to think.
It's not crazy. It's just changed so fast. So I think for me, I feel like I've kind of been in like a 7-year winter almost, and the Lord's done amazing things, but I feel like I've been in a pretty big battle since like summer 2016, you know, and just all sorts of things. I was kind of mapping it out the other day, and it's also why I kind of take exception to the idea that you have to have distance from your trial before you can kind of write about it, which I've heard like some of the artists I respect the most talk about that, but I don't think it accounts for people who are just kind of in it for a while and almost indefinitely. Who need the hope. That was another big reason for writing this record, is knowing that there are some people out there who need to hear from someone while they're in it. And not somebody who's just like has everything figured out and has come out the other side.
Right. Yeah.
But,
like I've dealt with it all, and now here's what I can teach you.
And that's an idol for me too, because I want to be the safe person who has everything figured out. And it's not that I feel subjective about like my beliefs or anything, but in terms of just the circumstances and even my own mind in the middle of it, I honestly have no idea what's going on still. Right. And I think it's good to be able to give voice to that space, because we all get there anyway. But within that, it's like you're waiting on the Lord. It's this taking hold of your belief that things will be okay. Psalm 42, when he says, "Hope in God, for I shall again praise him." He's not speaking in the present tense then, which I find really interesting. And I think there are just some periods like that. And, you know, I'm sure there are plenty of things I'm doing wrong or not doing that I need to be doing, that I'm, with the help of people around me, I hope to just be able to shine a light on those things so that I can, you know, I don't know if grieve well is what I'm going for, but I don't want to add more grief onto my grief with the way that I grieve, you know? But I think even as I address certain things, there's certain things that hit you in life that it's like, you're just waiting on the Lord, because it's not getting better anytime soon. And if the Lord can be glorified in that, and people can be encouraged through that, then I'm like the very last line of the record kind of is talking about that, you know, just the idea of I'm willing to lose whatever if that's what it takes for me to understand that you're the main the main thing in my life, and the really the only one. And so so I need to stop writing songs like that, I feel like.
No, I think it's fantastic, and that I guess that does answer the question, because I was curious as to what home enough for now was, and where that was, and it makes sense. It's about like just being I guess as content as you can be with where you're at, and what the Lord's doing in your life. And the same thing for go ahead.
I was just saying, that's kind of the mantra at the beginning of the record, is manna for the moment. You know, God didn't give the Israelites manna for the next day. He gave them manna for that day alone, and it spoiled the next day. And, that was something my aunt and my sister talked about a lot, right? Like in the days, like immediate days after my mom, because we were all just like, we don't even know which way is up. And I think my aunt was like, remember, like God just gave them the manna for the day, not the next day. And sometimes God puts you in a place where you're like, I'm living for today, and this isn't my ultimate home, but I'm gonna live here now where he has me, even though I want to be anywhere else.
Right. That's fantastic. I think that's great, and it also goes along with one of my favorites from the album, Flagstaff. And
Mm.
I remembered the post that you made about um, the backstory of that song, and I'll just um, read it here. It's about going to the Grand Canyon with my dad, your dad, and us not being able to see anything until we could suddenly see everything. And you were talking about like being in the midst of all this stuff going on in your life, and not necessarily being at the place where you're like out of it. And you said in your post, bear with those who can't see clearly. After all, it is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Lamentations 3:26. I I don't know. That's just so good.
No,
That
thank you, brother. I don't remember even writing that hardly. It's funny. It's like it's
really.
just such a crazy year. I mean, I do now, but I forgot. Yeah, and like that. I don't know if I gave the long story of that was a couple months after my mom passed. My dad and I drove out from. I flew out to Atlanta for us to drive out to California, and there was just snow falling on our way to the Grand Canyon.
Mm.
I had seen it, but my dad hadn't seen it before, and I was just like, I'm obsessed with the Grand Canyon. I think it's the most amazing place on earth. And and we got there, and it was snowing hard, so I wasn't sure what the visibility was going to be. But then when we got there, it was like a wall of fog. Like it was like the cliff, and you might as well just have a wall on the cliff. Like you couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, "It's okay. I've seen pictures." I'm like, "Dad, you don't understand. Like this is so." I was so sad. And then we left to. I'm like, "Let's go get breakfast for a couple hours, and then let's come back and see." So we went to get breakfast, came back. It was still just this wall, and then we just stayed around because I'm just like, I'm gonna be distraught like if you don't get to see the Grand Canyon, because this was what I was most excited about with this trip.
Yeah.
And like just slowly suddenly it started to like I thought the clouds were like in the canyon, but it was really just on the edge of the canyon where we were. Like we were in the cloud and the canyon was just clear. So when it started to clear up, it was like slowly you saw like a little bit of something, and it just like faded, and then like it just like cleared up, and suddenly you just saw the entire like this massive canyon. And it was better than if it had been normal when we first got there.
Wow.
Which is a lesson in and of itself. But
It's like God
that
just
song
pulled
is
back the
that song's my
curtains.
favorite on the record, actually. So that
Oh, yeah.
encourages me that you like it. That's one of my favorite
Yeah,
songs I've written.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of that one.
Oh yeah, I love that, and also I love I forget exactly what it was. Actually, I think I could probably pull it up here. The line that you had at the end where you just played with the word Flagstaff, so genius. I mean, you probably weren't even thinking about how genius it was, because this is just you, just pouring your heart out. But where is it at? Because I have them right here. Oh yeah, so now some flag waves in its embrace, where his staff waits to comfort me. It's like, dang man, that's some bars.
Bars. That's what I go for. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to start working on your hip hop album.
The truth is, I just thought Flagstaff was a cool name for a song too. I don't know why. I've always thought that was like an aesthetically pleasing name, so I just wanted to build a song around it. But then I had
And I didn't even realize that was the name of the town. So I'd never been there. I've never seen the Grand Canyon. So
it's it's like an hour and a half south, I think, of the Grand Canyon. So we stayed in Flagstaff and then drove up. But yeah,
Gotcha.
I love Arizona. I think Arizona's beautiful. It's so fascinating to me.
Yeah, I'll have to come down sometime. I don't think I've ever been to Arizona, but one of these days. So yeah, there's a lot that I feel like that we could unpack about this album. I was in preparation for this interview. I was listening to it again today, and I was reading along with the lyrics for the first time, and just like man, this is great. It's definitely one of my all-time favorites for this year, for sure.
Wow. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. One thing that I'm curious about, I'd like to get into the whole production of the thing. I remember you talking on the JFH podcast, and something that I didn't even realize listening to it until you mentioned it in the interview is that like most of the album, if not all of it, was basically recorded on your phone, right?
Yeah.
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 What percentage of the album was recorded on your phone, would you say?
Well, it depends on how you define recorded. Everything I did was tracked through my phone.
Okay.
So all of the vocals, acoustic guitar, a bit of electric, some piano. That was all kind of tracked through my phone and sent to my friend Alan Odell, who's I probably bring up every time I do one of these things because he's one of my best buddies. He's and he added a lot of production elements and guitar work. My justification is the Sufjan record that really had a big impact on the writing of this record. Some of what he recorded was recorded through an iPhone, and there's sometimes where you hear like air conditioner or something like that in the back that I'm like,
Yeah.
if I did this, I would be so bothered by that. But then it's on that record, and I think it's perfect. So I guess we're allowed to do this.
If Sufjan did it, then you can do it too.
The thing is, though, then you realize you're not Sufjan, and people don't want to hear like 17 songs of like lo-fi, morning songs from a nobody. But
I love it.
Thanks, man. No, that encourages me a ton. Yeah, it was just necessity too, because I don't have recording gear. I've spent my money on outsourcing music stuff, recording Shelter Heart with Asher, and then dropped Alan some money to help me with this. And so
Right.
I've spent my money there instead of having my own gear, which is something I think I might want to invest in the future, because I would actually love to produce one day, but I've not done anything in terms of like learning how that works. It's just a matter of I love hearing stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very. I sent the title track to Alan. It was the first one we did, and he sent it back to me. I immediately felt like, okay, I think this is gonna work. Whatever this turns out to be, I believe that this will work. But it was a crazy process. Like we were finishing it right down to like the last minute before I posted it on Bandcamp, and that was not something I would ever do again. And
Yeah.
Sure, there's like a few things I would change, maybe, but also it's its own thing to where I think having to kind of do it the way we did it benefits the themes on it, because it's going to be it's just going to be its own thing in relation to probably anything else I do. But,
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing that like it has to be honest, and probably the more time you spend trying to polish it, the less honest it may seem. I don't know. But I totally get that. Why did you I'm curious, cuz you're not, you're an independent artist. You don't really face like deadlines, like a lot of like really huge artists usually do. So I'm just curious why you put like a deadline on it for yourself.
because Alan and I had all the time in the world, and we wouldn't get it done if we didn't do that.
Gotcha.
So, and it was also just the heaviness of it. It was kind of like, I don't want to draw this out, the making of this out. I just want to finish it, and then kind of whatever comes out. And I don't feel like the songs are unfinished either. By the grace of God, I don't know how they're not. They don't seem that way to me, but
Good.
but but yeah, it forced us to kind of complete because we were kind of going at a snail's pace, both of us, and we're both very nice. And so we're like, and very chill. And so we're just like, if you can get it done here and if you can do that and whatever.
Not like pushing
and I'm
each
just
other.
like, yeah. And I'm like, no, we both agree. We're like, we got to put a deadline on this. Let's just give it a release date so that we know it has to be done by then.
Sure.
And so none of that is like very professional. It's not what you're supposed to do, but not,
right.
This record wasn't supposed to release. It was in God's sovereign plan, but not in my plan. So,
yeah, right.
So,
yeah. And yeah, I can imagine it probably being like a pretty grueling experience to have to, work on those songs, because they have so much emotion in there for you. Was that, I mean, you already said that you wanted to get it done. Was that like ever taking a toll on you, on your emotions or anything?
I think it probably was a little more than I thought in the moment, but it also was not like a studio process because it was just me tracking stuff. It was like
Sure.
time after work and getting the last couple of weeks when we were just trying to like do a lot more, and it felt more like almost a proper studio experience, except it wasn't super proper.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Mike,
is it still can you hear me fine at least?
You're fine. It's just okay. For some reason my camera goes out.
You're good.
For some reason.
No worries.
I mean, at least it turned back on. The last interview I did, it just like disconnected and I couldn't get it back on. So I was like, sorry guys, you can't see me for the rest of this interview. So, but anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. No, I was just saying it was kind of like, I mean, I don't know that it was that much different than just living normal life because it was so woven in between just my job and church and school and so but it also gave me something to kind of work on and sort of purpose to do in light of my mom. It was actually putting it out that when I was kind of like, now I don't know what to do because I'm not working on something in relation to this. And I didn't know that was how I was going to feel either. I didn't think I didn't know how I was going to feel. But so it actually, in some ways it was almost helpful in the making of it, and then putting it out actually was less cathartic than working on it.
Yeah.
But it was also, it wasn't too bad. I wouldn't do it again, but I'm glad we did it the way we did it. It was, and Alan was like, this was just one of those things where I'm like, I just need my buddy to be the one to work on this stuff with me. Mm-hmm. Just somebody who knows me and like really well, and we've walked with each other through so much that it was just, I told him it was kind of like hearing his stuff over. It was almost like hearing my friend grieving with me a little bit. And that's the sweet thing about those kinds of relationships, especially in the context of music. It becomes kind of deeper. So, So yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So, did it, you recording it on your phone, and not like, cause, your previous album, you had the whole studio experience and such, and even the next album you're working on, did this album come out of a sense of urgency? I'm wondering, where you're like, I just have to like get these songs out, because of, what you're going through. I don't know if I'm like second guessing.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. Cause it came out so quick and but honestly, it was almost the opposite more. It was almost just like, well, maybe not the opposite, but it was kind of like, I was mostly just tired, but I was writing stuff and I'm like, this stuff has to get out one way or another. Yeah. And so let's just do it this way. I love the way the iPhone sounds. Actually, I always miss the demos a little bit when I finish something. So to be able to make something between like an iPhone demo and like a full studio project. That it is I consider it like a studio project in the sense that it's an
Oh,
official
sure.
album, but it has some of that rawness that it feels a lot more like this is just the sound that it's just my sound, kind of more unfiltered.
Yeah.
So that's why I hear most of the time before I actually like record something officially is that
Right.
kind of sound. So to have an album of that is kind of nice. But I didn't feel I don't know that I felt like a ton of urgency. Maybe I did. I don't know how I felt totally, but
No, yeah.
it was just kind of I had songs and I'm like this is the way I know to put them out, so let's just do it.
No, yeah. And I personally love the whole approach. It's got that because there's something about like those kinds of demos. I don't know if you ever listen to Manchester Orchestra, but
I love Manchester Orchestra. I just saw
uh,
them live a few weeks
oh
ago
yeah,
for the
that's
second
right. Yeah,
time.
you posted
Yeah,
about that. Yeah,
one of the like best live bands. Andy Holt's I think the best like live
yeah.
performer I've seen in the band. He's incredible, and
I
he's
s-
from my hometown. So
oh really? Oh,
yeah,
I
they're
didn't
the
know
only
that.
band who's mentioned my hometown Lawrenceville in the
Yeah.
song. Just a plug. So sorry.
So you
Yeah.
and Manchester Orchestra is that town's claim to fame. um, That's awesome. Yeah, I saw them live. They did a 10th anniversary tour of Mean Everything to Nothing, and they played that whole
So good.
album plus
I
some of their new
love that
stuff.
album.
It was great, and I also saw they did like acoustic tour. Andy and Robert, and they played in Peoria, and that was really cool. But they released their that demo EP, and it was like demo versions of from songs from Black Mile to the Surface, and I just remember thinking like, oh man, this is like a pretty cool idea. Like obviously he's like singing to his phone, but I like this idea that it's there's a sort of like rawness to it that's also really nice, like because it just so happens that Apple, iPhones are pretty good recorders, honestly. So you have that. I love how your album has that level. It adds to the honesty and rawness of it, but then on top of that, you have this amazing production on top of it as well. It's like I said, I would never have known until you like told me that most of it was tracked on your phone because like it's like I probably would have guessed like, oh, it's just like an effect that he put on his voice or whatever. But it's like, oh man, okay, that sounds really good. So
That's
yeah, I
encouraging. Thank you.
yeah, I don't see it as like unfinished or anything at all. Like in fact, I'm kind of like struggling between like which album I like better, Shelter Heart or Home Enough for Now.
Oh, that's cool.
They're both they're both great in different ways, honestly,
Mm.
and that's yeah, I really appreciate it. So and honestly, I don't feel I don't usually go crazy for albums that are about an hour long or over, but honestly, don't even feel the time for this album. There's
Mm.
just
Oh, awesome.
so much to get into and so much to follow along with the album, and it's yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
Um, so yeah, so Home Enough for Now. I know you wanted to talk about the album, and so you know, I had reviewed it on the channel before, and I'm just telling my audience again, please go check it out. It's it's something, that's for sure. But you're already working on your next album, right? And you've been
Yeah,
in the studio. Is that still going on? I don't know if you wanted to talk about it at all or not.
for sure. Yeah,
So yeah.
it's pretty close to. I'm going back into the studio. I've been in the studio. I went in for a couple weeks in June,
Hmm.
and I'm going back in for a couple days next month to wrap things up with Asher again.
Nice.
Um, and it's it'll pretty much be finished.
Nice.
It'll be a bit before, not hopefully not too long before it's out, but I want to. With Home Enough for Now, it was kind of like I'm just putting this out and seeing what happens. With this, I really want to be strategic,
Right.
about how to release certain things and kind of be business savvy with it. And I'm trying to get a lot of pointers from people about what I should do with it, and sending it to folks who might have use for it, aka labels. And so
Okay.
I don't know. So we'll see. It's but yeah, it's close to done, and
Nice.
I don't know. It's too much. I don't know why I decided to go in and record this like 2 months after finishing and putting out Home Enough for Now. I think I might just be in manic mode, to be honest right now.
Well, you were saying how like finishing Home Enough for Now. You were like, now what? So it makes sense that you just went ahead and started on another record. So that seems totally understandable to me. So so you had like a whole funding campaign, but was that ever like completed or anything?
Yeah, I wasn't able to raise all the money, but by the grace of God, I was able to get just exactly like enough to do what I needed to do, and so able to go forward still.
That's good.
Yeah, and I'm excited about it. It's different in the sense that it wasn't all done when I went to the studio, which I've never recorded something, and written in the studio. So that was kind of a new experience. And there's a lot of songs I wrote, like 3 years ago. A few songs that I've known I wanted to put on kind of the next project. Even from Shelter Heart, I was saying this could be the next project, and then all this stuff happened, and Home Enough for Now ended up being the next one. So this almost feels like,
Right.
even though there's a lot of tie-ins between Home Enough for Now and Shelter Heart, where it's the proper follow-up, this almost feels like the intended follow-up to Shelter Heart in terms of just the style and the vibe. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing what people think of it. I'm excited about these songs for sure, but I think I've done so much lately that I don't have much perspective on anything anymore.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, you kind of.
which is probably a good place to be in a way. You have to just trust the Lord with things. But
Sure, yeah. You just write what's on your heart, and what happens. I mean,
yeah.
I personally am really excited about it. You haven't made any bad music yet, so I'm excited, especially since with the aftermath of Home Enough and Now, I'm interested how much that has affected this album. I know you've said before that it's not going to be as like in the depths as Home Enough for Now, but I don't think I'm expecting it's not going to be any less honest from you. So I'm
It's
excited,
definitely
man.
a bit lighter, I would say. There's a couple moments that will kind of be like, okay, there it is. That's a
There
little
it
bit
is.
heavier.
He's
But I
still
think as a
human.
whole, yeah. Well, I think as a whole, I wanted to make something. I kind of promoted it as an indie rock record, and I don't know if that's what it actually turned out to be. I still got a couple days in the studio, but
Yeah. Well, hey,
but
I mean, indie rock can be such a broad term, so I think
I
you're
don't know
okay.
what that even means. I was just trying to build hype. I know it's not as much of a lie as Sufjan Stevens' 50 States Project, at least. So,
There you go.
but yeah, but even regardless of where it falls on the genre level, I know there are at least moments on this record that are the biggest and most kind of most energetic, kind of lively moments of anything I've put out. I mean, Pour Me Out would be a good kind of example of, I think, where some of these songs go in terms of just their, not the whole song necessarily, but definitely moments on the record that are just more electric guitars, just bigger vocals, kind of stretching my voice a bit more. And
Sure,
I wanted it to be markedly different. Home Enough for Now was interesting because it's all mostly softer, with the exception of a couple moments on the record. And
and those moments stand out for sure. Where you just belch your heart out there.
But some of it, it's funny. Some of it was like just having a little energy, but also some of it was necessity of just writing in my house. But then, and just trying to sing quieter. Yeah. But then some of these songs were they were written like a few were written before I even moved out to California a few years ago. In my church, where I had all the like echoey, reverb in the world, and that hallway, and then there's a few I wrote in the studio and finished in the studio that I had the more space to, I feel like, really be able to sing big. And so I hope vocally it stands out at least, but then lyrically it feels kind of like climbing out a little bit. There's still some wounds, but it's kind of like reassessing the trials from before, as it were. But I feel like it kind of closes a chapter a little bit, because I would like to write more, I don't know, like more topically, maybe, in a way that's not just like me sharing pieces of my own story. Not that that's wrong, but I'm looking forward to kind of getting outside of myself more in writing. And I hope my story serves people, but I want whatever I end up writing next to maybe go a little beyond, maybe write like a devotional album or something like that.
That'd be great.
I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, whatever you write, if you wrote like some sort of sci-fi concept album, I would listen to it.
That's an idea.
I have planted a seed. Oh no.
Yeah, I'm not Jesse from Falling Up though, so I don't know that. But
I was more so thinking about because I interviewed Becoming the Archetype at Audio Feed, and that was their whole last album was basically just this sci-fi concept album. So
this is a fun fact. Jason Wisdom is also from my county.
Okay.
I sat with him at an Andrew Peterson show one time, because he's a big Andrew Peterson fan, which is so funny to me. I love it.
The big metal guy into acoustic indie worshipful
prog
music.
Death metal band lead guys. Big Andrew Peterson fan. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, well, then there's another one. Becoming the Archetype, Manchester Orchestra, and then Benjamin Daniel.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, like I said, I'd be excited for anything you release. So I'm definitely stoked for this next album. And Home Enough for Now has resonated a lot with me already, and I think it's going to resonate with a lot more people. I would hope so. If people were smart, they'd listen to your music. So, but if you still had time, I would like to switch this conversation around. I asked you before about creating a list of your favorite, or at least some of your favorite Christian albums. This is an idea I kind of stole from the Black Sheep podcast, but I put a Christian spin on it. But yeah, are you still down to do that?
Yes. I don't think you realize how well you've loved me with that question, because I love lists.
Oh, me too. Me and my friend Mitchell, we do it on our podcast all the time, like our favorite movies or favorite albums, favorite whatever. We do our annual like favorites of the year. So yeah, I'm all for that. And I usually always have like a definitive top 10 of something that, you know, it changes over time, but I just
Same here.
always have to have it, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have
but
that with
yeah,
like movies?
yes, I do. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I'll have to
movies.
ask you about that after this.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I actually do have to. I have to make my own. Like, I don't have my own like top 10 favorite Christian albums list, like
Hmm.
definitive list. I need to work on that. I
The
feel
thing
like I.
is, I feel like my favorite albums though are Christian albums,
Okay,
or
well that works out.
at least adjacent. Like
Yeah.
even like artists that might be iffier that are influential for me in terms of
Right.
like how Christian they are still like have that bent.
It's like,
So
are they
it's
Christian? Whatever, you
yeah,
know, it's fine.
but it's an easier question for me. Maybe the Christian albums is kind of that's like my top five favorite albums. Period. So it's
Okay,
really
awesome. Well, let's hear what you got then.
so. It's fun because I came up with like four really immediately, and of course I'll go one by one. But like I came up with four,
Yeah.
and there was a fifth. The fifth, I was like racking my brain because there's four that immediately come to mind for me.
Uh-huh.
And the first one, I'm gonna go in like I'm really geeky about this stuff, but I'm gonna go in order of like influence and when they really started
Sure,
to
yeah.
influence me. But first is 40 Acres by Caveman's Call.
Mm.
That was like the first when I was 13, I think. That was like the first album I really fell in love with, and that was like the first band that became like my band, like my favorite band at the
Nice.
time. And saw them live multiple times, and that record just yeah, I feel like Caden's Call almost like they were folk, but then they had some rock elements, but then
Yeah.
they're kind of weird in moments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then also like very theological. And it
Mm-hmm.
was just like they kind of checked every box because I grew up with like James Taylor and
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Hornsby, and you know that was like the music my dad would listen to in the car, and so they were
Yeah.
kind of like they sort of. I felt they checked all the boxes for like what I'd listened to up to that point, but they also kind of because they were more alternative-y, a little bit weirder, had a little bit of like a rock edge at times. Like
Yeah.
they also kind of like set a tone for what I would get into afterwards in a
Mm-hmm.
way. 40 Acres I just think is like a perfect record. There's
Yeah.
songs
Yeah.
on that record that like Table for Two, Faith in My Eyes. The title track on it, I basically told Asher when I recorded the song Shelter Heart, I'm like, I just want this to sound like the song 40 Acres. And
Nice.
so
Yeah, I can see
yeah.
that. Yeah. Totally. Is that the album where Thankful's on?
Yeah, Thankful's on there, yeah.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
second track too.
Great song. Yeah.
It's
I mean,
amazing too. I didn't realize. I feel like I was also really young getting into that record, so I didn't know anyone my age who liked it because I got all my older siblings' music, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah,
And so,
I was the same way.
And so it's funny, like talking with pastor friends of mine who are like 10 years older, some of my closest friends who they loved that record, and I didn't realize that people were listening to that record because no one around me besides my siblings like knew who Caden's Call was. But it's
Yeah.
So I felt cool too. I think liking it, but I just I love that record. I feel like a lot of people, and this isn't to knock on like other more like you know like the DC Talks and Audio Adrenalines, but like for me, I was just more into like the Caveman's Call, Jars of Clay kind of style of music.
Gotcha.
When I was younger, is more what I grew up with. But
I didn't you know, as a kid, you know, growing up, I was definitely more of a I was a big Newsboys fan, big into DC Talk and Audio Adrenaline. It wasn't until like I got older that I really started to appreciate more of the alternative stuff like Jars of Clay and Cademan's Call. Even though I grew up listening to Thankful, that was a jam. But yeah, it's the kind of thing that you don't really appreciate until, well, at least I felt like I didn't really appreciate until I got older, you know. And Derek Webb, his songwriting ended up being a huge influence on me. which is kind of a shame because I don't know if you're familiar, if you really know, but I had a little bit of a recent online
y'all are
drama.
best friends now.
What's that?
I said y'all are best friends now.
Yeah.
Just joking.
Yeah, I mean, people know about that. I won't get into it, but it's just kind of.
But his songwriting was super impactful. For
Oh
me.
yeah,
like, I mean, his songwriting on 40 Acres. I like Thankful Fine, but it's actually like Table for Two, Faith in My Eyes, Somewhere North. Those are three of my favorite songs of all time. Those songs all sound like home to me. And so he was like the first songwriter who I remember being like, wow, this guy's stuff really impacted me. So
I remember
Caedmon's Call just in general.
Oh yeah,
really just paved the way.
And I got really into their debut, their self-titled album. Their song I Just Don't Want Coffee was like it was one of the first songs I remember hearing and being like really noticing the lyricism in the songwriting, and that's why it was like so influential to me. It's like, oh man, you can write a song and it doesn't have to be like very upfront with what it's trying to say. Like you can be creative with your lyricism. Like, so yeah, it was very influential to me in Caedmon's Call. Yeah, I was really happy when they recently did their I guess reimagined version of the self-titled album.
Bring it back into light.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna just start singing like "Sue Me," like all night.
It's so good.
Those two records. Those first three were great, but I mean all their stuff. So but 40 Acres, Anyway, long story.
Cool.
That album was massive for me.
Yeah. All right. So what's next?
So next, again, like order of influence. If you put a gun to my head and ask me what's my favorite album of all time, I would say this album, and it's "Cities" by Amberlynn.
Dude.
Whoa, dude! I just noticed that.
my head's been in front of it the whole time. It just so happens to be the album of the week right now.
That is crazy. I have that vinyl.
I only just recently got this. I bought it off a guy on Facebook. So
that startled me. I was like, whoa, where did that come from? Ta-da! Dude, I was just listening to Amberlynn. Amberlynn and Andrew Peterson are my two biggest influences by one. I have a lot of influences, but I was just listening through their discography again this week, and I was just like, there's just not a band that brings me joy the way Amberlynn brings me joy. I love them so much. But listening to Cities again, I'm just like, I can't divorce it from like the 15-year-old me hearing it for the first time. But I still I just don't think there's anything else in that genre that is like it. Like, it is just...
They were very unique, and I feel like that they're kind of underappreciated in that sense, you know?
They're kind of like pegged as like a Fall Out Boy kind of adjacent band, and like those...
Yeah.
But I feel like their stuff, it had a little bit more 80s influence. It's more artful.
Oh, yeah.
I think than people give it credit for. They kind of are treated like a radio rock band, but it's very artful. I mean, like his influences were and are, like Depeche Mode and like Morrissey and all these like really like more downbeat like 80s stuff. But Steven's voice is just it's my favorite voice ever. His melodies are insane. I've told this story over and over again. The night before my 15th birthday, I heard Cities for the first time, and I listened to A Whisper and a Clamor for 3 hours straight, which I've never done anything like that before or since. And
you're like crying in your bedroom, you're listening to it.
I wasn't even crying. I was just like overjoyed, and I was a sad teenager at that time. Like but like it just brought me so much joy, and I remember it shifted music for me where I was like, it felt like I didn't know I could enjoy music that much, and getting I feel like getting past the unwinding cable car on that record for the first like week was like getting past a level in a video game because it just kept repeating the beginning of the record over and over. And then of course, like now, I mean, at this stage, I would say Dismantle Repair is a top 5 favorite song of all time for me.
Oh yeah.
I think it's perfect. I think it's incredible. And then Finn is one of the greatest closers. It's just,
Finn is
it's
so
just
good.
like, it is so good. And I
Definitely gives me
that was
chills.
yeah. I was just listening to it the other day, and it's like even emotionally and lyrically, some of his stuff too. Like, and every day I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this sometimes. But like, but you see, it kind of reframes some song, but it also just it's so epic that it sound, but it also just record like that song in the opener and a few songs in between.
It really
like,
stands
Disappear is
out.
incredible. But like the whole that record is just a mess, but it's fun to listen to. But
It's a beautiful mess.
It's a beautiful mess. But Cities is, I mean, it's perfect. It's also like it's another one that my sister kind of passed down to me. And so it's just kind of like the older siblings paving the way for that music. I was just talking to her the other day on the phone. She was like, "Yeah, I still work out."
Dude, I was working out to Anne Boleyn like a couple months ago because I was prepping for an episode that I wanted to do. I wanted to make a tier list of Anne Boleyn albums, and I was just kind of re-listening to them. But I was doing it while I was working out. I was like, "This is actually really great workout music." Honestly,
yeah.
I haven't made that. I haven't made that episode yet because I had the whole like technical issues and such. So I'll get back to it one of these days. But that'll be an exciting episode to do. But yeah, Anne Boleyn is, and I feel like I didn't realize how much it influenced me till with my music. I remember one time listening to Down, their song Down.
Yes.
From Dark as a Way, Light as a Place. I was listening to that. I was like,
So
man,
good.
this sounds like I feel like this had more of an impact on my music than I really even realized before. It's like this sounds like something that like Sherwood Forest would cover or something like that. So, but yeah, Anne Boleyn.
This isn't an Amberlin podcast. Just last thing, that particular record, "Dark Is the Way," has always been kind of near the, not at the bottom, but it's like to me the least of their stuff that I just absolutely love, which is a weird thing to say. And then listening to it this last week, I'm like, this record's so, awesome, and I don't know what to do. Like every time I listen to their albums, I'm just like, I don't know which goes where. If I was to it's
that
so
one's
good.
also kind of underappreciated. I've always had a love for that album. I feel like it was
Beautiful.
I think it was the first album that came out after I became a fan of theirs. Like it was the first release that for me as a fan. So it was really exciting for me. But cool. I'm glad we could bond over Anne Boleyn.
Yeah, it's so fun. That was hilarious. The vinyl.
Yeah, you know, I was
like,
thinking about it because I thought I remember you saying that you were a fan of Anne Boleyn. I was like, oh, I wonder if he's gonna like mention them or not.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
cool. All right, so that's 2 so far. What's the next one?
So this was like the 5th that I was like I couldn't think about, and I was trying to think of which route I wanted to go. And this one like surprises me because actually until like the last month I wasn't even sure if I thought this was the band's best album. And then it just hit me really, really hard that it's not only my favorite by this man, but it's one of my very favorite records of all time. But Nothing Is Sound by Switchfoot.
Oh, okay.
Like it hit me recently. The Beautiful Letdown has always been their number one to me.
Yeah,
and
it's the number one for a lot of people.
I've always put that kind of in the top 10 for me of like all time. And then when I listened to Nothing Is Sound a couple months ago, which it's always been like very close to me.
Yeah.
It just suddenly I'm like, this is one of my favorite records, period. And so relevant, not just to when it was released, but like incredibly relevant now.
Yeah.
Just found it very moving. Beautiful Letdown, Nothing Is Sound feel like kind of sister records because they're both deeply biblical. Like, I think way more biblical than people were giving them credit for at the time because they had gotten so mainstream.
Yeah, they had their mainstream hits and such.
Yeah, I also love that like John Foreman wrote Nothing Is Sound when they got huge because that's not the kind of record like that kind of soul searching and looking at the vanity of things that shows a maturity in how you're dealing with, like, he has that line in the blues of, you know, is it like is this what they call freedom? Is this what you call pain? Is this what they call discontented fame? You know, it's just like even alluding to like he's got all this stuff, and rather than him indulging in whatever fame and success was bringing them, he was actually thinking hard about just the futility of it all. And it's such an edifying record, though. Like, it's heavy, and it really is more honest than most Christian records, I feel like, around that time. But it's so encouraging at the end. It kind of weaves this kind of narrative. It kind of goes back and forth. Like, it's almost like it's like flip-flops. Every song is like, it's like really encouraging. It's like heavy, encouraging. Like, kind of keeps going back and forth on the record. But it just lands on that, on Daisy, which is just a perfect closer. And I realized last time, like, this is a perfect record. I have no qualms with this record. And Switchfoot's so influential for me in general. And I sometimes forget that. Because I like their most recent stuff too, but because my favorite stuff is a little older, I've kind of forgotten, I think, at times how much they had an impact, not just on me, but people around me. Another reason I thought about that in terms of like my very favorites, my buddy who passed away in 2017, Nothing Is Sound was, I think, like it was his favorite record. It was at least in his top 5, and so I think of him when I hear that record too. But but yeah, so it's so that album just it hit me this year how much that means to me. But it's kind of a new thing. Like, I wouldn't have expected to put that in my top 5 of all time until even just thinking about like this list that you gave me.
Yeah, well, you're welcome, I guess. But yeah, it's a great album. I need to go back to it. I think because I definitely did have my Switchfoot phase, and I think I do actually, retrospectively, I think I do prefer this one over Nothing Is Sound personally. Maybe because, like, you, well, I don't think you said this, but like, Nothing Is Sound is great, and it has a lot of great songs on it, but it also has like a lot of the radio hits that kind of got overplayed, and this one, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's so many songs on Nothing Is Sound that are so great. And I think they were talking about this on the JFH podcast, how like this album was kind of like, it had kind of like a mixed reception, you know, because I don't really get it myself, but I guess, you know, I feel like they did go a little heavier on this one. You got songs like Stars and Lonely Nation, but like and Politicians, and some like really, but then like some really deeper songs like Fatal Wound and The Blues and Shadow Proves the Sunshine. It's it like you said, it's not the kind of album that you make after you sell out, I guess, you know, and I guess I never really appreciated it in that way. But I personally loved how Switchfoot, even after like they got mainstream, they still continued to like challenge themselves. Like, I even love Oh Gravity. Not a lot of people love that album.
So fun, so creative. The things they do.
Oh yeah.
I think "Dirty Second Hands" might be my favorite Switchfoot song. Actually, it's so weird.
Oh, yeah, it's weird, but
But
I love
it works. It
Yeah.
works. Whatever they did on that, it's great. Yeah, they don't get enough. Kind of like Amberlin. I think some of these bands, like, they don't. Reliant K is another one. Where it's like there's some of these bands that don't get enough. Don't get enough credit for how artful they are.
Yeah.
Like, Nothing is Sound. Like, Happy is a yuppie word. You listen to the song, you're like, what is this? This is strange.
Kind of
But
song
it's
is that?
perfect. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
Honorable mention, by Reliant K. I almost, because that got me into just this kind of music in general. But then I feel like Cities was kind of an extension of that more. But that's also one of my all-time favorites. I love that record.
Yeah. It's a classic. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. Switchfoot. Can't go wrong with Switchfoot. I also really love John Foreman's solo stuff. His especially his first few EPs and the first album is great.
Same here.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So what's next?
So then for Be Brother Sister by Me Without You.
Oh, nice.
That album, I think it might be the most, like, technically perfect record I've ever heard. I think it's I just think there's nothing missing in it, and there's so much going on. I mean, he even, like, breaks down laughing in one of the songs, and it's perfect. Like, it's just.
Do you know the story behind that, actually?
I don't know if I do.
So apparently, this is my buddy Mitchell. He's like the biggest fan of Me Without You. They're his favorite band, and he told me that when he was tracking the song, apparently the other band members had, like, recorded them saying, like, really weird stuff. I don't know exactly what it was. I don't think anyone really knows except for the band. But Aaron didn't know that they did that, and so while he's trying to record his vocals, he's hearing them saying all this stupid stuff, and then it just made him laugh while he was recording. Just left it in there.
Oh, that's awesome! I love that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you knew that, but yeah, continue.
No, I love that. That actually reminds me of some stuff Alan was doing actually while we were recording Home Enough for Now, which is obviously like a dead serious record in so many ways, but there's I'll have to send it to you. I'll just have to put it out at some point because it's become like a meme in my office with one of my coworkers where he I was trying to sing. This is a total, like, going off, but
no,
there's
go
like
for it.
I was trying to sing a harmony for the bridge of Surgical Wound, which my friend Jacob sang.
Jacob Goins, yeah.
Yeah, you know Jacob probably through audio.
Yeah, I did a show with him recently when he was in town.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I want to do a show with Jacob really badly.
Dude,
That's
yeah, that would be great.
The hard part about being in California, but but he I was trying to do a harmony. No, I don't even think I was trying to do a harmony. I think I was sick and I was trying to do a melody, and it was so bad that Alan thought I was trying to do a harmony.
Oh.
And he isolated it, because this is what he does whenever I do something bad, is he isolates it and remixes it. And so and he remixed it with this, like, 1950s, like, noir, like, beat underneath it, like, that sounds like some, like, detective show. And it's just like, anyway, I've got to post it sometimes. That's what
Dude, yeah, you should. Definitely.
Aaron Weiss, but yeah,
I love
you
stuff
have to
like
laugh
that
in between when you're recording weird stuff. But yeah, that album though, when I first heard it, a friend of mine introduced me to it, and I'm like, what is this? Like, in a bad way. I'm just like, this is so weird. And then, like, a couple words caught me, and then I went home and I listened to the whole record, not expecting to listen to the whole thing, but I listened to the first song, like, Messes of Men, like, reading the lyrics, and just was like, wow, these are like the best lyrics I've ever read in my life. And and then just the whole record, just listening through the whole thing, it kept blowing my mind. I'm like, I don't know what I'm listening to. I just know it's one of the best things I've ever heard. I remember like just laughing when I got to "Oh Porcupine," and when he says "All creation groans," and it says "shh," and then everything cuts out. And there's like a pause, and he says, "Listen to it," and then like everything comes right back in. I'm like, who does that? This is like the weirdest, but it's perfect. Like everything they did on that record, was incredible. Yeah, that one is like Amberlin. I feel like Cities kind of taught me how like a great record can be crafted and just sounds like kind of just different kinds of sounds, like the diversity that can be put into a record. Brother Sister was like that, but it also taught me about like words have color too, and like have like you can play with words in such a unique way, and the stuff he does is like there's nothing like what Aaron Weiss writes. And Me Without You, I would say alongside Amberlin would be like my favorite bands. Kind of together, and I feel the same way about Me Without You's discography as Amberlin's, where I'm like, I listen to their whole discography and I'm just like, this is all great. I think the ones that are kind of on the extremes of like A to B Life and It's All Crazy are kind of my least favorites. I like the ones that
I love It's All Crazy.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I don't want to listen to it all the time.
Gotcha.
But Brother Sister, I think, is amazing. Untitled, I think, is like their second masterpiece. Like it's dangerously close for me. And then Pale Horses, Catch for Us the Foxes is obviously amazing. January 1979, just Paper Hanger is amazing. It's frustrating because I have so much trouble getting people into Me Without You, and I understand why.
They're an acquired taste, that's for sure.
I get why, but I want so badly to like, for like a friend to just listen to this and be like, I say the same thing I did, where I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I think this is incredible, and I want to keep listening. But yeah,
it's funny because like I feel like I regrettably got into Me Without You a bit too late. It was like just before they released Untitled, because I remember being a teenager, and often around that time, how I discovered music was that I went to the library, and for some reason my library had a good selection of Tooth and Nail records. So that was really cool. That's how I got into cool. Anne Boleyn and like Showbread and other bands. But I picked up Me Without You, and I just wasn't ready for them. I put in, I don't know if it was like Brother Sister or Catch for Us the Foxes, but I remember putting it on and being like, this is like the worst singing I've ever heard.
It's not good.
No,
it's not
but
to be.
Well, I didn't.
Neither is. Hey, if Bob Dylan can do it, though, like anybody can do it.
I just didn't understand it, and so I just I didn't pick it up until like a few years later. It was like, okay, I understand, but I still didn't really dive into their discography, and it wasn't actually until me and my friend Mitchell, we have this podcast, the Podwood Forecast, and he wanted to do an episode on Me Without You, and so basically challenged me to listen to their whole discography, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of incredible, So but then that was around the time when Untitled came out, and then they announced that they were calling it quits, so it's like, man, I'm a little late to the game, but still really appreciate
when I was 17 and when I was introduced to Brother Sister at 17, I was like this close to just moving on, and then I would have probably missed out on that, but just a couple lyrics caught my ear, and I'm like, I'm gonna stick with this, and then it just changed the game for me. It made me realize, okay, I can probably listen to anything now if I can listen to this. Which makes them sound like they're not a good band, but I actually think they're one of the best bands ever. But it's just it is. I get why they're an acquired taste. I never blame somebody for just being like, what is wrong with you? Like, all the rest of the music you share is like so good. Like, but what is this band? It's like I've had multiple people say that to me. But
Right.
I love them. They're another band I could listen to all the time too. It's not even like I have to be in a mood to listen to Me Without You. I could just always turn them
For
on.
sure, yeah. Just a moment of shameless self promotion. I don't know if you were aware, but there was sometime last year there was a fan made tribute album that was released independently, and my friend Mitchell covered one of their songs, and I also ended up covering All Circles on there.
Yo,
Uh, yeah, the album's called Torches Together, and it's like on Bandcamp and all the
dude,
streaming
I
platforms.
could
So
check
you
that
should
out.
check it
Was
out.
it?
There's
Was it?
there's some. What's that?
I was gonna say, was it the 10 Stories record, or just it was just covers in general?
No, yeah, basically, like you could just like submit like whatever song you wanted, as long as it wasn't claimed, you could just do it. So it's basically all these Me Without You fans coming together and covering their songs, and it was while they were on their farewell tour and before they like officially called it quits. So there's
Yeah.
some good stuff on there, so I would recommend you check it out. And I'm pretty happy with the cover that I did as well. So yeah, just a little shameless self promotion there.
No, no, I'm gonna check that out.
For sure, man. Torches Together, that's what it's called.
Torches
But yeah, what number are we on right now?
The
I
last,
forget. Okay,
I think 5. Yeah.
let's have it, man.
So I
Last
like
but
it's
not
Andrew,
least,
it's Andrew Peterson. That's like it's obviously.
of course.
It's just a matter of which Andrew Peterson record of the 10 that
Oh,
I
I'm
love.
sure that's difficult for you to pick.
So yeah, there's like, not to do a long build up because but there's a few I was thinking, like Burning Edge of Dawn has made me cry more than any other record. It's had a big impact on me, but I don't think it's like his best record as a whole. And then Far Country, I think, is his most underrated. I think that's a masterful record that people don't talk about much, because it's essentially a record all about death that is so joyful and peaceful. Counting Stars is like the record I could just like fall asleep to in the best way. Like if I need to bring down my heart rate or I'm stressed, I just hear like the beginning of Many Roads and I'm like,
Yeah.
like I like just start breathing. But Light for the Lost Boy to me is like his masterpiece. I think it's I feel like that and that was the record that really solidified him as my favorite songwriter at the time. I mean, still now. Favorite's a
Right.
funny word because it's like, but I mean, he's had. I write music because Andrew Peterson's written music.
Yeah.
The same way he writes music because Rich Mullins wrote music. It's people who have had just the lineage of songwriters having an impact on one another. But Light for the Lost Boy came out when I was 19 in 2012, a year after my uncle died, and it was like a 3-month journey of kind of caring for him in the hospital, and it was a really grueling summer. And I think like all those emotions hit me kind of a year later. And then I was also 19, so I was kind of beginning to come to grips with like my childhood being over for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was just this. I was just like, it was just an intense time. Like September 2012 or August 2012 is when that record released. And when I heard that album, I was like, this is telling my story so vividly. Like everything I'm going through right now, this album is addressing, and not just in a I relate to this, but in like a gospel centered. Just this is pointing me to Jesus. Like this is taking me, it's reaching into my feelings, and actively like taking me out of them and pointing me to Christ. Which all the music I've mentioned up to this point has done that to a degree, but yeah, the Lord has blessed me with like multiple mentors. There's a couple guys in my life who are some of my closest brothers, and I Andrew's stuff felt like it almost bridged the gap, where it's like the music version of that, where it's like I feel like I'm talking to a godly older brother in the faith who's seen more than I have, and is telling me it's all going to be okay because Jesus wins. And in Jesus we win too. And so like Light for the Lost Boy, yeah, I just think as a record and even musically and songwriting, it's just a masterpiece and the most adventurous of his stuff, even though I'm not necessarily listening to Andrew the way I would listen to like Me Without You. You know,
Sure, yeah.
It's kind of putting on a different listening cap, which doesn't make any sense because you don't listen through hats. But
I get what you're saying. I'm tracking along.
Thank you. But yeah, that just kind of began just the journey of just falling in love with his stuff and deciding I wanted to write songs myself, and then connecting with Asher down the road, and now getting to kind of contribute to that community just a little bit, and being actually
and then having and then having Sky sing on the song too.
Yeah, I'm basically a fan who's just gone too far.
You're like showing up for dinner at their house.
Yeah, they're like,
hey guys.
Like, yeah. Oh gosh. There's part of me that almost cringes, but I think it's a proper thing to like. I just think it's a blessing to me. For me, I want to be able to even pour back out on the people who poured into me. You know, be able to honor what God has done through like all of the artists that I mentioned, but especially Andrew, and just like if I hope he doesn't stop making music, but I know he's shifted to writing books a lot more and not putting out as much, and I don't totally know what his plans are in terms of the future, but if I could be one of the artists who kind of carries on the torch, as it were, and I have friends who kind of want to do the same thing, just writing honest music that points to Jesus, but is also speaks to the human condition, the way the gospel directly addresses and just the entire incarnation of Jesus.
Right.
Solves. It's just like I wanna be able to do that with my music. So it gives me I would have a deep love and fandom for music the way I have, like we're talking about, if even without his music, but I don't think I would be making it if his music didn't exist. I wouldn't have any idea of how I wanted other people to feel, or what I wanted other people to receive from my music if I didn't know that I want what people to get from my music what I got from and continue to receive from Andrew's music. So
right, yeah.
But Light for the Lost
I'd say
Boy,
you're on the right track so far.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I know I haven't poured as much into it in terms of like I need to play more live shows and I need to do more of that. That's another thing I'm trying to do. I'm in LA, so if I'm going to do it more locally, I'm in a good place to do that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I'm trying to grind a little bit more with that. I know just because I haven't thrown everything in, it probably will never have the same kind of reach, but it's also, I'm not going for numbers, it's whatever garden God gives me. If I can do kind of, a similar thing to what Andrew's doing, I'm thankful. And it's just fun. I mean, it's fun to be able to be connected and get to, Asher's been, I mean, it's amazing. Even just right now, what we're working on has been way more chaotic in ways, but he's just
Mm-hmm.
really talented and has been an incredible collaborator but really great friend. I actually got to see him last night because he was here with the band that he was doing sound for, and so it was
Nice.
fun. But yeah, so it's just it's amazing how initially the Lord opened up just encouragement and growth through Andrew's music, but now it's like it keeps paying its dividends of just having giving me opportunities now with my own music. So I will never be able to repay, so I'm not going to try, but I want to be able to do what I can to serve other people in the same way and point people to Jesus. So
Right. Well, it's definitely got to be, God just blessing you in a special way that he can with you, being able to have that connection with Andrew Peterson even more on a personal level and working with his family. I mean, like I considered it a blessing when God allowed me to have spend 2 minutes with one of my musical heroes when I met Peter Furler from the Newsboys. But that was about it, So he probably wouldn't even remember meeting me. So but it's one of those moments where I'm sure it really feels like God smiling at you, So
it's a gift.
gotta be
And
really cool.
I talk about the pain of the last couple years, and that feels more keen on most days, but then I have to remind myself of even just these it's almost harder to process stuff, I think, when you're grieving, because it's like I've also received some great blessing in it. And so I know one thing that I need to grow in is just thankfulness, and just not being grieving as I need to, but also just remembering in the middle of that, so much the Lord's given so much blessing, and but even in all of that, the only my intention is not to make a name for myself or to be big, but I love building relationships. I love that we met at Audio Feed, and your interest in my music is so encouraging, but also I love being able to connect with you and
Dude, same here.
Yeah, and I just I just want people to I want people to see Jesus, and if I disappear into that, that's great. And I think I'm learning some of that, and just if my music doesn't go anywhere, I'm just gonna have to really cling to that and live that out, and really mean what I say when I say if 30 people are blessed, and that's it. Then so be it. And so, it's God who grants the growth. Yeah. We just do what we can do.
Yeah. I was having a conversation about that earlier today, about art and why we do what we do, and how we do our best not to make it about numbers, and how it really shouldn't be about whether we're able to connect with 10 people or 1 million people. Honestly, just as long as we're doing it because we feel like we need to, and I think it's very inspiring to see you do what you do, because you obviously want to glorify God in the whole process, and so that's really cool to see. And yeah, man, it kind of sucks that you live all the way in California, because I feel like I would want to hang out all the time, man. So,
dude.
But
dude.
I always value any time that we to connect. This is your third time being on the channel, and I loved hanging out with you at Audio Feed. So, but
thank you, brother. Yeah, I wish we could have spent more time this last time. I don't know what happened. I feel like I guess I had less time, but then I feel like we were maybe both busier.
I was tied down to the table, you know? And so
Yeah.
like I wish that I could just like wander around and like be around people more than I could have.
Yeah.
But that was, that's what I signed
Well,
up for. He's like, "Oh, I guess I'm the merch table guy this year," you know.
yeah.
So,
Well,
but
next time at Audio Feeder, maybe even, Lord willing, even sooner, um, we can connect. Or hey, or we could meet at the Grand Canyon if you want. If you haven't seen the Grand Canyon yet.
dude,
That's
yeah,
a, that's a,
absolutely.
that's
Make a whole trip out of it.
dude. I just want any excuse to go back there. I might need a better car before I can, or
Sure.
just mooch off of somebody around me. But
Sure. Yeah, hit me up anytime. It's been a while since I've like just made a trip out to somewhere, just to go and travel.
have you been to California
So,
before?
no, I actually haven't actually.
Oh, dude. I mean,
I've been like just above it. I've been to Oregon and Washington, but I've never been to California.
if you're not in California, people talk about it the way the way people talked about Nazareth, like, can any good thing come out of California? But if you're actually in California, I mean, it's so gorgeous, and you just
Yeah,
like, even
I'm
though
sure.
the culture can be crazy, it's crazy everywhere, and even the economy is no joke. It's rough here, but
Oh,
it's
sure.
also a little rougher everywhere. Um,
Yeah.
but every time I start to get bogged down by like macro things, like how crazy things are here, I just look at the mountains and look at the hills. I mean, the psalmist taught that I'd lift my eyes to the hills, where does my help come from? I'm like, you really understand
Yeah.
that when you just have these massive hills? Like,
Sure,
this place
yeah.
is God's. Like, this isn't nobody can touch the Lord. Like, even as crazy as I'm in the valley right now, which is, this is where like the porn industry is, and drug
Mm.
drug just all sorts of stuff coming through this place, just studios in general. That's just like a lot
Yeah.
of, and I mean, look, I love movies and I love film, but like there's a lot of darkness that stems from here, and I still like drive around and I'm like, but like, God is here. My church meets, and it's in a school like on Sundays, and it's like, it's just sweet, and we're not thinking about how crazy things are. I wish my car worked a little bit better, but that's the biggest issue for me right now.
Right, yeah. It's a
But
more immediate situation.
anyway, all that to say, that's like my my plug for. It's not that scary out here. It's actually really gorgeous.
Well, that is a
And
great perspective, and I admire
So-
that a lot. Because, yeah, you hear so much about what comes out of California. It's just like, I mean, I have a friend actually who's here who is from California, and so he always has a lot to say about it, both mostly negative actually, but
yeah,
yeah,
people who leave are gonna say that. I'm
Sure.
also a young guy who doesn't have a family, and that's harder, or that's easier to. It's harder when you have a family. It's just harder to make things work, and so I understand why some people leave, but also
Yeah.
we need people out here, like, to fight the fight out here too. So
Sure, yeah, I totally get that. But yeah, maybe someday I'll head down there and I'll hit you up for sure. I mean, I don't really have anyone else to hang out with in California, honestly. So, yeah.
yeah,
So cool, man. Well, this has been an amazing conversation as always, man. It's always a blessing to have you on here, and yeah, hopefully we can connect. Maybe sometime before audio feed, Lord willing. But
yeah.
either way, it's just like any conversation we have, I feel is always a blessing. So thanks so much
Brother.
for being on here, man.
Praise the Lord, really. Yeah, that encourages me. I mean, you're encouraging to me. Just
I try.
that you take interest, but the fact that I mean, life can be a struggle. So when if it's a blessing to talk to me, that's the grace of God.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm thankful. Yeah, I'm just thankful for the connection, and well, obviously we'll keep connected in between too. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be all this.
Yeah, for sure.
Business related.
Right, yeah. I mean, you're welcome on the channel anytime. You're a good friend of the channel, and I mean, it's a great support to me as well. So I really appreciate that. So never too many times for Benjamin Daniel to be on the channel. So
Keep on, keep forgetting the sun goes up, it's here on LinkedIn. Watch the bottom right, the way trying to fight the grief. It's quite enough, never quite. How I'm losing the humors, cruising this back road was not mine for the choosing. God be the friend of me, I'm at the end of the show. We can crush the head of me and the moon. Shall we crush the head of me and the
all right. Okay, well, we're back. Wow. Great conversation. Great guy, Benjamin Daniel. I know this was a longer interview, longer conversation, but honestly, I mean, I have the power to cut these things down, but I just didn't want to. I didn't want to cut any of it off. So Agent Serenity, we need a second Christmas on Brookwood album with a collaboration track between you two. Oh, dude. I mean, I've been wanting to. I haven't approached him about this, but I do actually have a song that I want to collab with him on sometime. I just need to finish writing it, and then I'll send it to him. Didn't think about a Christmas album, but that's an idea for sure. It's like I just want to do a collab with him in general. But Benjamin Daniel doing Christmas music, that needs to happen for sure. Anyway, but yeah, thanks for that, Ancient Serenity, and thanks to Benjamin Daniel. Awesome guy. I mean, I could sing his praises, till the cows come home. But we got to wrap up the episode. But yeah, if you haven't yet, even though I've been telling you guys a million times over, go check out Benjamin Daniel's music, especially his latest album, Home Enough for Now. It's incredible. Definitely going to be one of my top favorites of the year for sure. So yes, thanks again. I also want to say, that was the last of the interviews that I had lined up. If there's anyone out there, I have some people that I want to reach out for an interview at some point once I feel like that I have enough time. But if there is anyone out there that would be down to be on the show sometime, definitely reach out to me. But yeah, that's the last of the list that I had for interviews. So all right, well, I know we've been going on for a little while, but we still got some important things to get to, so I'll try not to keep you too long. But we have my humble opinion, and I feel like I've been saying this for weeks now, but I have a stinger in mind in terms of like a sort of intro to this segment that it's gonna happen sometime, so don't worry, guys. Not that you were worried, but it's time for my humble opinion. I had a few releases that happened recently. I wanted to talk about them. So the Worship Initiative has released a couple of new tracks. These are a bit more notable to me because they're originals from the Worship Initiative, and I'm a fan of Worship Initiative. I definitely appreciate the Worship Initiative more than most other worship bands out there, especially since Shane and Shane are heavily involved in it. I feel like that they've become less involved as of late, but either way, they've got a couple of new singles out. Excuse me, I'm burping. They got More Precious Than Gold, Psalm. I lost my place. Psalm 19, More Precious Than Gold, Psalm 19, and Never Stop Singing, my Psalm 95. And More Precious Than Gold is a good worship song featuring Robbie C.A., known for the Robbie C.A. band. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right, but it's about valuing God's word and delighting in his law. And I'm a big fan of that kind of theme in worship music. So, and it's fun. It's a fun kind of song. I mean, it is very worshipful and intended for, a more congregational setting, but I like the sort of like Southern, twang country influence that it has, but it's definitely very accessible. I'd say for the worship initiative in general, if you're a worship leader, definitely pay attention to them. And I would definitely recommend these two songs. Never Stop Singing, I felt like was a bit more generic musically, kind of your more generic worship song. But it still is a good worship song that is actually about worshiping God. And I always encourage that because that's not always the case with modern worship these days. So definitely check those out. I'm sure they're working on a whole album, but these two singles, More Precious Than Gold and Never Stop Singing, they're strong, very strong for worship songs. So go check them out.
Precious and gold, sweeter than honey, reviving my soul. Come let us sing, come let us shout of your goodness. Come let us praise, come let us...
All right. Next up, we've got someone that I've mentioned before on the show, Brian Sauvé. I want to say this is another Fapeste situation where I really butchered his name when I last. I don't even think I could really even figure it out. I think I said Suave, like Rico Suave or something. But I could just never really figure out how to pronounce his name. It's like, is it Save or Suave? But it's Sauvé. It's spelled Sauve with like an accent on it. He has a new it's either you can consider it a long EP or a short album, LP. It's called Hearth Songs, and I don't know, it's got 7 tracks on it. That's like almost an album to me, and it's like almost a half hour, so whatever. I don't know if I would include it. I might include it on like a best albums list of the year, but yeah, anyways, Hearth Songs, it's a new release from him. He is Brian Sauvé is he's more the content that he releases is more like scriptural based, and so this was a little bit different for him. They're more personal songs, and as far as I know, most of the songs are written for his family. A lot of songs written for his wife, and the other songs written for his children. I mean, there are songs on there that are very, they have specific titles for like his daughter Daphne and such. But I love this EP / short album. I think it's he's got that great like clean folk sound and lyrics that are very very personal, but very instructional as well, and poetic as well. He has a great way of words. I love the song Old Neptune is Roaring. It's a song that's written to his sons, but the thing is that like I listen to it and it's very encouraging for me as a Christian man. It's got that kind of lyricism that literally like makes me want to get up and like go on an adventure you know. And, you know, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. I don't know, some people may roll their eyes at that kind of stuff, very like masculine kind of centered stuff. But I think it's great. I'm a sucker. Like, even though I love like very art housey films, but I'm always a sucker for movies like Braveheart and Gladiator. I think this Hearth Songs is a great example of what it means to be a father and a Christian man and a husband. So, but I think it's definitely something. There's something for everyone there for everyone to enjoy. Only nitpicks I would have is that there every once in a while there's like that folky trope of like having a chorus of "Hey," you know. But it doesn't really bother me that much because I still just everything else I just really enjoy. So it's very nitpicky. So I would definitely recommend Hearth Songs by Brian Sauvé.
Boys, don't you know the dragons out there, dragons out there. Come on, boys, don't be so.
All right, next up, we once again we have some new stuff from Chase Tremaine. Last time we talked about his new single "Time," but now Chase Tremaine has released a deluxe edition to the album that he released earlier this year called "Accidental Days," and I wasn't aware of this album before, so I didn't talk about it before. But Accidental Days is this really fun, upbeat punk rock kind of sound with some, you know, alternative influence to it. And so I would definitely recommend that. I mean, his we did feature spotlight his song "Tired Side of Content" on here, so if you enjoyed that, definitely go check it out. But this new deluxe edition features 2 brand new songs. You know, one of them I talked about last time, but also one of those songs is "After Love" that features Benjamin Daniel, our friend Benjamin Daniel. And so there's that, but on top of these 2 new songs, there's also demo versions of not just songs from Accidental Days, but like previous releases. So like you got like different versions, you got demo versions, and on top of that, we have some commentary tracks from Chase talking about each of the songs from Accidental Days. And I gotta say, listening to him talk about the songs made me appreciate the album even more. In fact, it was very inspiring, kind of wanted me to go back and, like, you know, it inspired me to start working on some more music of mine. And so I think this deluxe edition is definitely worth checking out. Not just from a music standpoint. The music is great, but also just hearing the commentary is very insightful and made me realize things about the songs from the album that I didn't really pick up on. So yeah, and the 2 new tracks I think are great, and I would probably say they're just as good, if not better than, I mean, personally, I really love "Time" and "After Love," and so I would say that they were my favorites from the album, if we're including them from the album. But yeah, definitely go check out this deluxe edition of Accidental Days from Chase Tremaine.
Love is not to be loved, to take and take but not give. Love is not to be loved, to take and take but not give.
All right, last but not least, we have a new single from Paper Horses, the new outfit from Sandra McCracken and, oh gosh, I can't remember all the people that are involved. We got Jess Ray as well. Gosh dang it, I should write these things down. Oh yeah, Taylor Leonhard and Leslie Jordan. They have a new track called In Everything, and it's very not too different from the other tracks that I talked about before. Just really good bluegrass kind of feel, very worshipful, and In Everything it's a beautiful song about seeing God in every aspect of life and knowing he's there through everything. From what I hear, In Everything was actually the first song that they wrote together, and it was written during COVID. And so, very uplifting spiritually, and I'm excited to whenever they release a full album. I'm a sucker for nice melodic bluegrass. And these are very talented ladies, and we're especially a fan of Sandra McCracken. So yeah, go check out In Everything by Paper Horses.
In everything, I see you.
All right, and that's it. That's enough of my humble opinion. Which, by the way, I wanted to call out the Jesus Freak Hideout podcast. They kind of stole my my idea in their last episode. Agent Serenity says, one more thing, we can check up on the Are You a Christian Band account person to see what interesting replies have come up out of that recently. Could be a fun segment with news when news is sparse. That's a good idea, actually, and also it's a good way for to be introduced to new artists that are Christian. By the way, the thumbnail for Devil Wars stream is hilarious. Thanks. I just love that picture of Torrin Wells. It's the same picture that I used for the highlight video where I called out Torrin Wells and his insecurities, and all I did was just like stretch it out. So because I knew he was going to be hosting the show, so I think I'm just going to use that for the highlight video as well, because it seems to do very well. I actually checked up and saw that it has the stream has over 2,000 views, but still I can see that not enough people are like really watching the whole thing. They're like watching for like a minute and they're like, I'm done. So that's not like to brag on me or anything. It's just I guess it's a very eye-catching thumbnail and title. But yeah, whenever Are You a Christian Band Instagram account, I've talked about him before. You guys go check him out. It's a great account. I think he's been on a little bit of a break on posting as well. But yeah. So next episode, like I said, we're taking a break from the interviews for now. Next episode, I'm planning on talking about a few weeks ago, I talked about Mike Maines and the Branches' new album, and I feel like I didn't really dive deep enough, specifically with the song "Losing My Head," and so I wanted to talk about that song "Losing My Head" and what it has to do with the issue of deconstruction and what we can learn from it. And so I think that'll be an interesting topic. Don't know what there might be something else that we talk about as well, but that's going to be the main topic for next time. So yeah, I think that's all we got for today. Thanks again to Benjamin Daniel and to everyone watching the show. Really appreciate you. Agent Serenity says, for upcoming podcast, another topic is the 20th of Return of the King celebration. Well, this isn't a Lord of the Rings podcast, but yeah, I would gladly talk about Lord of the Rings anytime. Is it really oh, wow. Yeah, I guess Return of the King did come out in 2003. So I don't know. I'll never turn down the chance to talk about Lord of the Rings, but we'll see. Anyways, that's all that we got for today. Yeah, never out of place for Lord of the Rings. Very true. Thanks again, guys, for watching. If you're listening on podcasts, be sure to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating on Spotify. I don't know what the other podcast platforms really do, but if you can leave a rating or a review, then just do that. And if you leave a review, I will give you a shout out on the show. Also, check out Podwood Forecast, the other podcast that I do with my friend Mitchell. I'm currently editing an episode where we did our 50th episode, so that's going to be a fun one. Be sure to like and subscribe if you liked what you saw and what you heard and all those things. Merch, always got merch. So if you want to buy a t-shirt or a mug or whatever, link in the description. Also, always got new music with Sherwood Forest. Check us out on all the music platforms. And gonna be working on, like I said, the GMA Dove Awards highlight video and then the Days of Noah analysis and review. So check those out when they're out. In the meantime, remember that I'm Clifford today and you're not. I love you guys. Have a good weekend.